Uh, Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. My guest today is Lisa Simmons. She is a nutrition expert, a hormone expert. She's a ketogenic counselor. I found Lisa was through Dr. Ovadia. You may or may not have heard my interview with him last year. He is a cardiac surgeon whose mission is to keep people off the operating table, one of my favorite kinds of doctors, to keep people self-empowered to take care of their bodies the best they can. If you need surgery, no shame, no problem. But if you can avoid it, I would say that is a good idea. Lisa, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Gregory. And it's great. I was actually blessed to be able to work with Dr. Ovadia because we both follow the same passion, and that's really to educate people and definitely keep them off of this operating table.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
told him, that I'll tell listeners, in the late 90s, I was a chef and I got hired by a heart surgeon to develop a quick food restaurant, which did very well. But his thing was he wanted to keep people off the operating table. That was 30 years ago. And he said 60%, because that was the data at the time, 60% of it is lifestyle. Now, of course, we know it's 80% of what we do impacts our health and the health of our heart, cardiac, brain, all of those things. So it's full circle now, having met Dr. Avadia and having him say that. That's the title of his book, right? I want to
Yep.
keep
The
you off
office
my operating
operating
table.
table.
Yeah.
You bet. Yeah.
Lisa, tell me, tell the listeners a little bit about what you told me earlier, your journey, and why you got interested in keto.
So I like to call myself a recovering yo-yo dieter. So I've done every diet under the sun that you could think of. Never really had too much of a weight problem when I was younger until I hit high school. And then, of course, when you can drive and have your own money and do things like that, then when your mom says you can't have candy, but you have your own money, you can get whatever you want. So I had gained a little bit of weight, and during high school, I had lost a bunch, but of course, it was through the calories in, calories out type of method. So I would always try to out exercise a bad diet. That's really
Mhm.
where I was. And so I was very active. I played sports when I was in from about age of 12 to through high school. And I never really had too much of a problem. But of course, I come from the age where microwaves didn't exist until I was a younger child, and my parents always cooked, and we always had real whole foods. So that wasn't an issue. But then when I was older and was able to go through the McDonald's drive-through and eat whatever I wanted and stuff, then
Hmm.
eventually it started to catch up with me. So that's where it all started. And I've, like I said, done all of the diets that were out there. And then in the 80s, I had the book for Atkins, but of course, that's when they told you that it would kill your kidneys and all of that.
Mm.
But then it was in 2019, I just had this aha moment. And having started a diet every Monday, probably my whole adult life, it was February 28th, 2019. It was a Wednesday. I made the decision I was going to do this ketogenic diet thing, and which was really weird. And I jumped in with both feet, lost about 50 pounds in 6 months.
Wow.
Um, Felt great. Everything was going really good. And of course, then I went to a conference, Metabolic Health Summit in January of 2020 before the world shut down.
Mm.
And I was hooked. I was like, I met all of these people that I had been watching on podcasts and reading about and stuff. And I was like, I've been in healthcare. My background, I've been a nurse for 30 years. I've been a nurse practitioner for the last 13. And my goal when I went into nursing was to help people. And I felt as my career was moving along, I wasn't helping people anymore. It went from when I first started, the people I would see in the hospital were the elderly people, the 70, 80, 90-year olds, and they would be on two medications. By the time I left the bedside, I was seeing 20 and 30-year olds on 30 medications. And I felt like I was more of a pill pusher nurse. So it really was starting to really weigh on me. I was looking for any out that I could get out of medicine at that time. And then once I went to the Metabolic Health Summit and really felt like this was meant for me, I'm meant to help people in a different way. And that's where the trajectory started. And after I went there, and the world shut down for a while, but then I found out about getting a certification as a ketogenic nutrition specialist just to really learn more of the deeper dive into what I was doing. It was just fascinating to me because our bodies are such well-oiled machines. If we allow them to function the way that they're supposed to function, but with proper diet, proper exercise, you're really looking at stress and sleep, the four pillars of health. And we have more power than we really realize to give ourselves longevity and just to feel good overall. So
Hmm.
that's how it all started. And then I was blessed with the opportunity to work with Dr. Ovadia. So it allows me to really live out my passion and really truly help people at the core.
That's great. I want to just have the listeners who may have only a smattering of an idea of what keto is, and some will fear keto. Ketogenic diet is not a dangerous thing if it is done with some guidance, I would say. Is that correct?
And I think we have the fear around it is people think they really, even though it's a ketogenic diet, what they look at is ketoacidosis.
Hmm.
That's what I feel, right? So ketoacidosis is obviously very dangerous if you're a type 1 diabetic. But if you're not a type 1 diabetic, it's not something to really fear. Ketones are not something to fear when you're looking at how your body utilizes the food that you give it. When we think about a ketogenic diet, it's just a diet that's a little bit higher in fat, lower in protein, and then you keep the carbs about less than 20 grams total per day, right? So you're really keeping that sugar intake down. That allows your body to utilize ketones or your own body fat for fuel. There's two fuels that your body utilizes, right? You can use glucose or you can use ketones in the form of your own body fat. So the thing is, your brain really likes ketones. It doesn't really like to sit in a realm of sugar all the time. That's why we get brain fog, right? It doesn't really like it that much. And then also, too, for just overall health, being where you keep your carbs on the lower side, not saying that you can't have some carbohydrate intake, but you have to look at the type of carb that you're taking in and really what is it doing to the body. We all know that ultra processed food is not really food. With whole foods, especially really looking at protein and fat, and that's really to keep you satiated or full and then utilizing food more as fuel for your body. Now, when we talk about the ketogenic diet, I don't even like to say I'm doing keto or I'm doing carnivore or I'm doing ketovore or I'm doing whatever. The whole thing is really just focusing on whole foods, knowing that fat and protein are not going to give you the sugar spike or
Hmm.
the glucose spike like carbs are going to do. But again, everybody is an individual. It's N equals one. And really knowing how your body responds to certain things and what feels the best for you. Some people do better with a little more carb than other people do.
Yeah, and that's even down to genetics. There's all this talk about nutrigenomics for good reason, because certain people, like you said, will do better with more carb, less carb. And protein, I think, is one of those things where pretty much everybody needs a similar amount. Obviously,
Yes.
age, height, weight, all those things
Yeah,
make a
I
difference.
agree completely. You need it. You need it for bone strength. You need it for muscles. You need it for your overall health in general because we're losing muscle mass as we age, unfortunately. And people tend to really undereat protein. They think they're eating all this protein, but then if you really counted it out, it's really not as much as they really need on a daily.
Yeah, and especially if listeners, you are taking to heart the idea that we need to do more weight training, especially as we age. As you said, the muscles are going to start to sort of dissolve unless we use them. Then you certainly need enough protein, if not more than you were eating before you started a weight training regimen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So metabolic health is what? Define that for us.
Metabolic health is really what I say is being healthy on the inside.
Mm.
So in general, if you wanted to keep it really simple, because a lot of times you don't know what's going on the inside. People think that they're healthy, but are you? So there's different things lab work wise that we look at along with lifestyle. that are really important. For us, the basis is, we know the basis to chronic disease is inflammation and insulin resistance. That's going to be the precursor to heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune disorders, things like that, including cancers. And unfortunately, in healthcare, most physicians don't do the lab testing like we do. They don't really get into checking your inflammation or checking to see if you're insulin resistant, because people don't realize that you can be insulin resistant for 10 to 15 years prior to your A1C ever showing prediabetes. And it's so important to say, am I really insulin resistant? We have patients within the practice that they are insulin resistant, but their A1C doesn't show that.
That's interesting.
And so when you think about the labs that your doctor's doing, I think the number one lab that is really important, if you went to your doctor, I would ask for a fasting insulin level.
Yeah.
And going to a provider that understands how to really get down to the nitty gritty, look at the labs, and how to give the patient or the client a roadmap to improve those things, giving them the power to change things so that longevity and quality of life are huge. And really giving people that power. I don't know who doesn't want to live a long time. My goal is to be in my 90s driving my car to the grocery store. But I think anything that is going to keep it so that your brain is really healthy too. You don't have to rely on other people to take care of you. I've done a lot of things during my 30-year career, and working in a nursing home is rewarding but sad in the same, because I don't want to be in one. They're great for people that have to be there, but I saw people that had been in the nursing home for 10, 15 years. And to me, what kind of quality of life is that? And what could they have done to change the trajectory of their life if they had done things differently?
Yeah, and I think that part of the fault, I don't know where to put the blame, honestly, but like how far back do we go? Doctors don't have time. They're not educated, most of them, unless they go into functional medicine, perhaps, or unless they have a personal reason to delve into these kinds of inflammatory markers and preventing the decrepitude of old age. But I think some of those people would have benefited by listening to a podcast, or somebody gave them a book, but the earlier the better, honestly. And Western medicine is really good at keeping people alive for a really long time. But like you said, quality of life is super, super important. I don't remember who said it, but I interviewed somebody and they said, we should want to live long and die short.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be in a nursing home for 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, never mind. And so but we do know that we have the power to make a difference. Is it a 100% guarantee that if you're super healthy and you do everything you're supposed to, nothing bad is going to happen? Absolutely not. But I think it gives us an advantage.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we have more power than we realize. I think we've, unfortunately, through healthcare, have conditioned people to think that there's a pill or a potion for everything.
Yeah.
And instead of taking a look within ourselves going, okay, what could I be doing differently to make sure that I have a good quality of life? And there's no pill or potion that's going to make anything better. We didn't have all these pills and potions back in the day. And now we have so many of them. And are they really benefiting people? Are they really giving them a better quality of life? They might be giving them more years, but how are those years lived? So I think that's really important too. I guess in a lot of ways, it's sad because being a provider myself and having gone through nurse practitioner school and then working closely with physicians, I think in healthcare in general, we're taught to diagnose and treat. It's not about why do they have this and being curious. And does it come down to time? I believe so. Just in my personal experience, it's come down to insurance dictates care. And it's made it to the point now that doctors don't have the time because they're working these long days. They're seeing up to 30, 32 patients a day. It doesn't give them a lot of time to be curious and do the research and have a life.
Yeah.
And it's really doing a disservice to patients everywhere. I think we've been blessed with a lot of physicians now that are breaking away from that and are going, okay, something's got to give. We've got to be curious. We've got to do more research. And of course, now really getting into the food supply and what people are eating and making it so that everybody can eat the proper foods.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece of it because so many people live in food deserts that we've heard about, and or the way a grocery store is designed, right? All the stuff that's less than healthy is set up to attract you. The things that
Yep.
are more healthy are around the perimeter of the grocery store. There's also a price component. Some people cannot afford to have food with a high protein component or a high healthy fat component, which is a shame. I don't know how to
Yeah.
resolve these things. I'm just pointing out that there are so many things that can lead people into this place of unhealthy and inflammatory and then people aren't happy. If you feel like crap all the time because your body's sending out all these signals of running around and cytokines and all this stuff, you're not a happy human. And
Yeah.
happiness, okay, maybe happiness is overrated, but you're not even going to have a good day most of the time. You're not going to be good for your kids, your work, your partner, whatever.
Yeah. And the sad part is I think that's something that has to be looked at too,
Hmm.
is making things more accessible to everyone
Yeah.
so that every human has the opportunity to be completely healthy. Yeah.
Can you describe the difference, if you know the difference, I'm sure you do, between a carnivore way of eating and a keto? Because you said carna keto, keto carno, like
Keto
ketovore. There you go. I didn't
more.
even know that was a thing, but what is the
Uh,
difference?
so carnivore is really just focusing, if you ask the carnivore folks in the carnivore realms, some of them are real sticklers. They say it's all red meat, salt, and water, more
Mm.
of the lion's diet, if you're going to be real strict. But then also too, carnivore to me is really just focusing on protein and zero carb or incidental carb. If you drink coffee, you're going to get a little incidental carb because it's a bean, but it's really just protein and fat, not eating any type of carb, at least not on purpose. And then keto is just really adding in, I like to say low glycemic index vegetables, such as green vegetables, but keto in general, if you were going to do it by the definition, is less than 20 grams of carbs per day.
Is that like a banana?
Yeah, actually, a banana has 22 grams of carbs, if
Okay,
anybody.
so I just wanted to put that in perspective for people. If you're going to do keto,
So
you're,
one banana, and unfortunately, people don't understand that it's like there is no nutrients. And if people will tell me potassium all day long in a banana,
I
and
know.
I told you an orange had more potassium, it would probably throw you for a loop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I don't like, I'm lucky enough to not like bananas. I like the taste of banana, but that texture just, so I don't have to worry about that glycemic rush
yeah.
from eating a banana. Not to mention the size of some bananas in the
Hmm.
store. They've gotten ginormous. It's way
Well,
more than a portion.
and I make fun of this too because when I was growing up, I think there was four types of apples. Maybe there was a
Mm,
Macintosh, there was a red, there was obviously Granny Smith because your grandma made apple pie out of
yeah,
Granny Smith apples. In probably maybe the Golden Delicious, maybe
yeah.
that was about it. Right now you go in there, there's Honey Crisp and there's all these ones, and they used to be because I used to steal the apples off of Mr. Weather's tree across the street when I was a kid growing up. And they were little. And now
Yeah.
if you see them, they're ginormous. And that's another problem with our food supply. They are making everything sweeter, bigger, more of everything because they know people will eat it and it keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah.
And so you look at it, and I know organic is a big thing, but most food is genetically modified
Hmm.
and even our fruits and veggies.
Yeah.
And it's very sad because you look at carrots now too. Carrots are made to be sweeter. They have more sugar content in them than they used to. It's just frustrating all the way around, but giving the power to people so that they can make the proper decisions for them. And so just realizing that they're an individual, they're figuring out how their body works the best. We continuous glucose monitors a lot.
I'm a big fan of those.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. But really, because you don't know how food affects you as an individual. So it's really a great data point to see how things affect you because it's not the same for everyone. And you
Absolutely not.
cookie cut everybody into one category. So it is really, especially for those data nerds,
Yeah.
that want to know, I ate a cookie, what did it do? And the other thing too, when we talk about even people in the practice, not everybody wants to be a carnivore or just eat protein. So if they do veggies, I talk about the order in which you eat a lot, making sure that eating protein and fat first and then eating the carb at the end. For one thing, you're going to fill up a little bit quicker and you're going to get full. But also, too, the absorption of that carb, the spike is going to be less. It slows down that absorption, which is really important for people to, oh, how does my body really work? This is really huge.
Yeah. And for people that don't want a continuous glucose monitor, because you have to stick this little needle in your arm and then it's there with a patch. And it's a little tyrannical too, because of course the numbers come up on your phone if you put the app on and then you're tempted to look all day. But anyway, I still find them fascinating because I'm a data head person.
Yeah.
But one of the ways you can tell if you've had too much carb, sugar, whatever, is how do you feel after you eat? Some people want to take a nap immediately after eating, which sounds like, okay, what's wrong with that? It's a siesta. People do this all over the world. It's not siesta if you're that tired, or if you get
Right.
cranky, or if in an hour you want something else to eat. That's your body telling you you've had a spike and now you're having a crash. So just
Definitely.
start paying attention to how you feel after you eat. And the meal might have been 80% great, but there's that piece in there. So you can just look at what did I eat? Okay, maybe it's the mashed potatoes. Probably is, but I don't know for everybody. Maybe it was that big extra portion of rice from the Chinese restaurant. Probably, but can't. So
Mhm.
we can do our own little investigative work without technology.
And I think that's one of the number one things that I ask patients when I see them is, how are you feeling?
Hmm.
And because that tells you a whole lot.
Yeah.
If you really start paying attention, because even for me, if I veer off path, because again, a big thing is it's progress, not perfection. Human, I'm not perfect all the time, but what I do the majority of the time is what benefits my body. But when I don't do well, the first thing I do, I shouldn't have ate that. I feel bad. And then my stomach hurts. And I go, I shouldn't have done that. So that keeps me from really doing it very often
Yeah, yeah,
because I know how I'm going to feel and I don't like that feeling. So it
yeah.
makes it a bit easier.
I'm with you. I
Yep.
love sushi. I love sushi. However,
Why?
between my genetics and the salt, I can't have the soy sauce. But every once in a while, like we hadn't had sushi in maybe 6 months. My husband and I were like, what should we get for dinner? Okay, let's go pick up sushi. And I swear, I just had the littlest bit of soy sauce on my fish. And the next day I woke up and my eyes felt like buggy and I hadn't had the best night's sleep. And even though it was fish, I only had a little bit of the rice. It's not worth it, right? I
Yep.
don't know. It just, but it's interesting. That wouldn't have been true 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I was fine. My body has changed. I have to adapt. It's just the way it goes.
And that's the whole thing, is really paying attention to yourself.
Yeah.
Because you think about Thanksgiving, everybody is, oh, it's the tryptophan in the turkey. No, it's all the carbs you just ate. Your body is in a state of carb overwhelm,
Yep.
and you're higher than a kite is really what it is. There.
Without the fun of feeling like
Yeah,
you're,
even with Thanksgiving, you can eat really well. You just don't have to eat all the junk. If you're focusing on protein, man, you got a little ham, you got some turkey, and as long as you're not putting like the honey glaze on the ham or whatever and stuff, and you still have some good choices that you can make and still partake with everybody else. You just don't have to eat all the junk. It's all about choices. I'm a big I'm a big options person.
yeah,
I like
absolutely.
options, but I like good choices, and I think pretty much anywhere you go, you can find a proper choice.
Yeah. And I saw an Instagram post the other day and it said, you say you would kill for your kids or you would die for your kids. Would you give up? Would you make a healthy choice the next time you have a choice between McDonald's and another restaurant? These choices
Yep.
are harder to make because we don't like the other option. Basically, it comes down to that. I don't like the option of not being able to have ice cream every day during the summer, but I don't have ice cream every day during the
Make
summer. I have it
carnivore ice
once in a
cream.
while.
Yeah.
Carnivore ice cream. I like that idea.
Yeah. It's very simple. It's only got four ingredients.
Whipped cream, heavy cream.
Do heavy cream, egg yolks. I use allulose for the sweetener, and then you can just put a little bit of like vanilla extract in there.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. It's my go-to if I'm an ice creamaholic. I like ice cream, but I usually make my own. And what I like about it is I can make it in 25 minutes. It's very simple to make. And it's like a little bit like soft serve when it's first done. And it still tastes like ice cream. More ingredients in it and stuff I can pronounce, which is really,
Right,
really
right.
important.
Yeah. The label doesn't have 40 things and you have no idea what any of it is.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Except you have to be careful with heavy whipping cream. A lot of them have nuts.
Carrageenan, it's very
Oh,
hard to get it without carrageenan. I
yeah.
think you really have to go to Whole Foods or one of those, even your
Yep,
neighborhood natural food store might have something, but it
yep.
is, I can buy grass-fed half and half, which has no
Oh,
carrageenan have been for a long time at our local grocery chain, but I have never seen a grass-fed cream at the regular old grocery store.
I agree because I've looked and the ones that are in there for the heavy whipping cream, they all have carrageenan, but I use the A2 half and half and it doesn't have anything in it. It's just cream and milk. And why with the heavy cream, they feel they need to add the emulsifier.
I know it's already heavy cream, right?
It
It
is.
lasts longer. It's more shelf stable too if they put the carrageenan.
Yeah,
And
that's
it goes in
true.
your coffee. Every tablespoon's going to do the same thing. It's not going to separate. Then people get freaked out. They're like, oh my God, there's fat in here. What happened? That's heavy cream. That's why there's fat.
Yeah, we people would realize too that fat doesn't make you fat. If we could get past this last 50 years of all this fear of giving people fat because sugar makes you fat.
When people started to gain weight as a across the board was when low fat, when SnackWells, I call it the SnackWells era, when all the fat disappeared, half the fat disappeared, and it was replaced with sugar, but people didn't know that. And
Yeah.
so I think that is the genesis from there forward of so much metabolic illness because of the sugar, the glucose causing all kinds of these problems.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know any better either when I was in healthcare because you only know what you're taught.
Yep.
And same thing with doctors, you know what you're taught until something comes across that makes you curious.
Mm,
It really makes you want to further investigate this, and especially even for yourself, because it's definitely a journey. And I think you take in every time you have one of those experiences. I'm still so grateful I got on this path
yeah.
because to feel good is the best feeling in the
Hmm.
world. So
How would you say your life feeling about yourself changed? Because you said you lost 50 pounds at one point.
I did. And then, of course, we didn't finishing the story. I gained some back, like everybody does. And I'm in that realm where people, they do keto one time, they lose a lot of weight, they fall off the wagon, and then they get back on. And then it's not as easy as the first time around. I don't know if you've heard that,
I did.
but it's not. And so to be transparent is I'm still on the journey. I've had to change things around and try to figure out, but I'm also a postmenopausal woman. And I do find that sometimes it can be a little harder when you're a postmenopausal to get the weight off. It's just, I don't know, that your body just loves this stuff. I don't know what it is. But changing it around, I eat very healthy. I eat about 2 meals a day. And then I started thinking back to what was I doing when I did keto before? Of course, I was a nurse practitioner working in a hospital, a small hospital, and I went up and down the stairs all the time. I
Oh,
never took the elevator. I went up and down the stairs and it was 4 flights. And
wow.
so if there was something going on, I was going up and down the stairs all day long. So I was getting all these steps in. So I was actually really active. And then I have been working from home for the last 4 years. And had become real sedentary. And because nurses, even when you work in a hospital, you're busy. You're on your
Yeah.
feet a lot and you get a lot of steps in. And then working from home, that kind of really made things a little more stagnant for me. So then I started thinking like, okay, thinking what it is, I need to get up and move more. So now I get up and I do at least a minimum of 3 miles a day walking. I do get 10,000 steps a day. That's my goal every single day. And so trying to figure out what's going to work best for me. And now more of the weight is coming off again. So it's definitely a journey. There's no perfection. And I think if I could just even reach out to women out there that have tried stuff in the past and now you're stuck, just keep going.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important is be true to yourself. You definitely want to eat what your body needs and really focusing on the protein and fat because fat does not make you fat, ladies. I just want you to know that. and keeping yourself where you're fueling your body with the proper nutrition so that you're giving it the feels like your car. If your car takes unleaded, you give it unleaded. If it takes diesel, you give it diesel. The human body is meant to eat protein and fat. It is. If you want to do carbs in the form of real whole foods, there's nothing wrong with that if that is what you want to do. But really getting to the point where you're getting your inflammation down, making sure you don't have insulin resistance, and do what you feel is best for you. And it's really a process and it's a journey. But really just love the journey. It's not, we're not all meant to be skinny, skinny.
Yep.
It's really about overall good health is what you need.
Exactly. And keep in mind, people, skinny people can be unhealthy people. Skinny does not
Yes.
promise you a long life without any problems. It's just a body shape. It's
I had
just,
a patient, a female that had a heart attack, and she goes, Lisa, it was so eye-opening. She said, I went into cardiac rehab and everybody in there was thinner than I was. So it's not about what you look like. It's
yeah.
really taking a look at what's under the surface, what's going on the inside, because we don't know. Some people, they can have a lot of visceral fat. You can't see visceral fat, people. That's what's around your organs. It's so much more dangerous than the fat you do see. And so you can be a skinny fat and not know it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the
It's
point there is find a doctor who will ask for the right kind of tests to give you, certainly not going to show you visceral fat. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the blood work gets started with somebody who understands inflammation and the relationship between triglycerides and LDL rather than just focusing on the LDL. There are all these other things that can work towards making us healthier that
definitely.
we need to ask for. Don't be afraid to ask your doctor. How else can you test for my cardiovascular health? How else can you test for my overall inflammation? They know. They just don't think to do it. And hopefully insurance will pay for it. That's the other problem we have.
Exactly, right. And it is hard to get a lot of those tests covered by insurance because they're more preventative looking into the future instead of being like, oh, you've got this diagnosis. Okay, yeah, we got this diagnosis code. Now we can go ahead and we can order those tests, right? It's a little bit different that way. But to me, if you have that extra money to be able to even pay cash for some of the tests to even see where you're at, I don't think you can put a price on good health, really. And knowing exactly what's going on with you on the inside is just so important. Know your particle sizing. It's not about just the LDL number, it's about the quality of your cholesterol. You want those big and fluffy people, not those small, dense. But also knowing how can you improve it if
Right.
it's not the way it's supposed to be. And that's where getting with a provider that understands and can give you the tools to be able to make the changes to really improve your overall health and getting you so that you feel the best that you can feel into your later years. Because again, it's really about not the how many years you live, it's how you live those years.
And Dr. Ovadia is one of those doctors that you can
Definitely.
work with virtually. And his website, ifixhearts,
Yes. I
ifixhearts.com.
fixhearts.com. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Um,
that's how you would get to see us.
yeah. And for those of you who are not going to make an appointment with a doctor but want more information on the protein and fat components, my Power of Five 5-day email series will walk you through step by step what's the science behind it, and then some practical applications for every day. In case somebody's like, I don't know how to put more fat in my diet. Here are some ways, right? And it doesn't have to mean you're going to bathe everything in butter, although I have no problem with butter, but you'd be surprised where healthy fats live, and they taste good. Fat just tastes really
It does taste
good.
good,
Yeah.
right? I said this the only reason I miss bread is because that's what I put my butter on.
I'm with you.
I could care less about the bread. I just want to eat the butter. I love butter.
That's funny. Well, Lisa, thank you. If I could speak, I'd say, Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. And listeners, I will be back next week with another fabulous guest, and I hope that you will be well until then.